My name is Max Letterly, and I am the Program Administrator for the Audit Bureau here at the Department of Revenue. I've been with the department since 2006 and have had the opportunity in my tenure here to serve in a variety of leadership roles, including managing the Central Processing Bureau, overseeing taxpayer services, as well as leading enterprise projects as the Gentex business lead. I took over as the Audit Bureau Program Administrator in 2024, just last July. And so I'm just coming up on a year in this role and have been learning an awful lot during my short time in audit. So today I'm going to provide you with an overview of the Audit Bureau and describe our processes as well as some of the rights that are afforded to taxpayers during and after an audit, as well as cover some of the self-service tools that are available for taxpayers during an audit. In terms of the Audit Bureau itself, the mission of the Illinois Department of Revenue's Audit Bureau is to provide fair, accurate, and efficient and equitable enforcement of tax laws through the audit process and to improve voluntary compliance for future reporting. We strive to do this through continuing to improve voluntary compliance for all through education and communication with taxpayers, industry leaders, and professional organizations. The Audit Bureau has a current headcount of 391 full-time staff and is comprised of 3 divisions: the Audit Discovery and Recovery Division, Field Compliance for Sales and Miscellaneous Taxes, and Field Compliance for Income Tax. Just a real quick overview of each of those. Oh, you can go back one slide there. So the Sales and Miscellaneous Tax Field Compliance Division consists of 137 full-time staff, of which 133 are auditors or audit supervisors. This team is responsible for conducting a variety of audits, including retailer's occupation tax, use tax, service occupation tax, and service use tax audits, audits of cannabis taxes on dispensaries, cultivators, and craft growers, hotel operators occupation tax, telecommunications excise tax, tobacco products tax, and Metropolitan Pier and Exposition Authority taxes, as well as a variety of other miscellaneous tax types that are administered here. Our staff for sales and miscellaneous taxes are located throughout the state of Illinois, as well as in major metropolitan areas throughout the country. The Income Tax Field Compliance Division consists of 74 full-time staff, of which 70 are auditors or audit supervisors. This team focuses on audits related to business income tax, individual income tax, and withholding. Staff are also primarily located in Illinois, though just like on the sales tax side, we have a number of auditors located in major metro areas throughout the U.S. Lastly, our in-house operation, Audit Discovery and Recovery, is responsible for providing a variety of support services for the Audit Bureau, including identifying potential audits and establishing audit assignments for in-house and field personnel, providing technical support for audit staff, reviewing legislation, and coordinating with legal to resolve questions. They also perform desk audits of identified leads. On the income tax side, they focus on non-filers, personal services income, or reasonable compensation, for example. On the sales tax side, we conduct audits on transactions such as aircraft and watercraft purchases, referrals from other states, and other select areas of focus. The AD&R team also is responsible for reviewing and processing completed audits, providing laptop and remote access support for our staff, as well as requesting updates to our integrated tax system. They process responses from taxpayers as well as payments that we receive. And we also have a federal state exchange unit, which is responsible for performing examinations based on information that we receive from the Internal Revenue Service. Those would include non-filers, where the IRS has received return filings or information, and there is no corresponding return on file in the state of Illinois, as well as underreportings. The Audit Discovery and Recovery Division currently has a full-time staff of 173, of which 127 are auditors or audit supervisors. The rest of the team is comprised of senior leadership as well as staff within our federal state exchange unit. Next slide, please. You can advance the slide. Thank you. Just some quick staffing updates. So as I said earlier, I took over as the audit program administrator in July of 2024. That was following the retirement of Roger Koffs from the department. Roger actually retired in December of 2023, but stayed on to help support the audit program during the transition to new leadership. Tiffany Strebel took over as a Audit Discovery and Recovery Division Assistant Division Manager in July at the same time that I started. On the sales tax field compliance side, we've had two new additions, Jason Masunis and Jerry Albach. They both became sales tax field compliance assistant division managers in mid-July 2024. And then Vula retired as a ADM on the sales tax field compliance division in May of 2025. So Vula just left and we're in the process of getting that position filled. We are continuing to grow and are actively in the process of hiring a number of additional supervisors, as well as planning a large audit hire for this next spring. Next slide, please. All right, so now that I've given you some background on how the Audit Bureau is set up, I'd like to provide you with some additional detail on the audit process itself. IDOR's audit program serves multiple purposes: ensuring compliance, educating taxpayers, identifying underpayments and overpayments, and ultimately protecting state revenues. Audits are intended to ensure a fair and efficient system of tax administration. They're not punitive by default. They're meant to promote fairness across the taxpayer base. And the audit process may lead to either liabilities or refunds, depending on findings. Next slide. So taxpayers are entitled to fair, respectful, and professional treatment during audits. They have the right to an accurate determination of tax liabilities. Communication must be clear, right? So auditors must explain what they're asking for and why. And we work with our taxpayers and their representatives to ensure clear communication between our auditors, as well as on the flip side when information is coming back to our team. The rights of an auditor and the rights of the taxpayer are grounded in the Taxpayer's Bill of Rights, which are highlighted in our PIO 60, available on our website. And just to highlight, transparency and respect are cornerstones to the process. By being transparent throughout the audit process and respectful with our taxpayer base, that does help ensure a higher quality audit and better results. Next slide, please. So how taxpayers are selected for audits. So audits are established from various sources, and selection isn't always about suspicion of wrongdoing. Some of the common triggers include random selection, such as statistical sampling methods, nature of business. So some industries, such as cash businesses, bars, restaurants, for example, may have a higher audit risk and more likely to be selected. Audit history, prior issues that are identified through processing or through audit may lead to reexamination. And then referrals. Those referrals can come from other audits. They can come from other agencies within the state of Illinois, local governments, as well as from other taxpayers. Next slide. So different audit approaches are tailored to the type of tax and business being audited. Some of the methods that are used include verification of reported tax bases, document review for receipts, invoices, and ledgers, comparative analysis with federal returns and industry averages. For a retailer, our audit will serve to identify and verify the proper amount of tax is collected and remitted on taxable retail transactions, and that the taxpayer has properly documented their support for non-taxable retail transactions. For income tax audits, we would be verifying additions and subtraction modifications as well as credits claimed, and ensuring that those are properly reported and supported, and receipts are properly apportioned and allocated, and that income is properly reported through pass-through entities. Regardless of the methods used during the course of an audit, the goal is always to ensure that a proper tax liability is determined. Next slide. Required records for audits. So the foundation of any successful audit is solid documentation. Taxpayers are required to maintain and produce source documents such as receipts, invoices, and transaction records. General ledgers, detailed accounting data that supports their tax filings, and their filed tax returns, along with any supporting schedules and documentation used when preparing those returns. Organized and accessible records not only help to facilitate a smoother audit process, but also reduce the risk of penalties. So once an audit is assigned to an auditor, an initiation letter is sent to the taxpayer. This letter outlines the period of the audit and directs the taxpayer to contact the auditor. If the taxpayer doesn't contact the auditor in the next 1 to 2 weeks, the auditor will then contact the taxpayer to set up an opening conference. At that opening conference, the auditor will describe the audit process, go through questions specific to the audit, and will determine how the audit will be conducted, whether in person or virtually. The auditor will then follow up with an information documents request, an EDA 70, seeking books and records relevant to the audit. Additional actions can be taken if a taxpayer does not provide the requested information or if additional information is needed during the course of the audit. This includes an additional document request or even a formal demand for books and records if that's necessary. As a general reminder, failure to produce records can result in penalties of up to $3,000 per filing period. So we encourage taxpayers to work with our auditors and produce records when requested. Next slide, please. Audit locations and duration. So audits can be conducted in a variety of settings to accommodate both the department and the taxpayer. These can be conducted on-site at the taxpayer's point of business, at the office of the taxpayer's authorized representative, and even remotely through virtual tools, including the virtual audit room and MyTax Illinois. One thing that I will note, a recent survey that I noticed from McKinsey highlighted that 54% of taxpayers prefer communication on tax matters digitally, and 41% only want digital communications interaction with tax matters. We've put a lot of effort into building out our virtual options over the past several years to meet that demand and to ensure that we're providing services to taxpayers in the manner they prefer. I'll go into more detail on the functionality and benefits of both the virtual audit room and MyTax Illinois later on in the presentation. The length of an audit can vary greatly based on the business size and type, record readiness, and responsiveness of the taxpayer or their representative. A one-day review can become a months-long audit if data is not provided promptly. Efficient record gathering and communication can significantly shorten the process and reduce disruptions to your business. Next slide, please. So representation during audits. Taxpayers do have the right to representation. Authorized individuals must submit Form IL-2848, Power of Attorney form, to the Department of Revenue. This form should be sent to both the audit team as well as the department, either by upload through our MyTax Illinois site, via email, fax, or through traditional mail. Additional details on submission methods can be found on our website at tax.illinois.gov. One note, only owners, officers, members, or partners may legally appoint a representative. Next slide. Penalties and reasonable cause. So for liabilities established under audit, there are two primary penalties that may apply. A 15% liability, or I'm sorry, a 15% penalty is applied when liability is assessed during the course of an audit. That advances to 20% if the liability is then unpaid after 30 days of the notice of audit results. Taxpayers can request a waiver of penalties if they can show reasonable cause. Reasonable cause does require a written explanation as well as supporting documentation for the request. Penalty relief may be granted for circumstances like natural disasters, death or serious illness, or reliance on professional advice. Our auditors will guide taxpayers through the request process if applicable. Next slide. Resolving audit disputes. So once the initial audit work is complete, the taxpayer will be provided with the preliminary audit results and will be given an opportunity to provide documentation to resolve any exceptions. Additional documentation will be reviewed and the final audit working papers will be provided to the taxpayer. Taxpayers have several options at that point to challenge or mediate any audit findings. Those include fast-track resolution, the informal conference board, formal protest, or even court appeal. The fast-track resolution program allows for certain taxpayers to resolve disputes before an audit is finalized. Some examples of those types of audits include 1099-K audits, certain cash businesses, and select individual income tax or business income tax audits. Eligible taxpayers will be provided with information about the program, after which they have 20 days to request an FTR conference. The Fast Track Resolution Program provides a forum for prompt resolution of those disputed audit issues while the case is still under the authority of the Audit Bureau. The program consists of a one-day conference between the taxpayer or their designee, an FTR facilitator, and members of the Audit Bureau who are independent of the unresolved audit. The target for completion is 60 days or less from the time an FTR application is filed. For the informal conference board, all taxpayers have an opportunity to petition the ICB for administrative review following the issuance of a proposed notice of tax liability or proposed claim denial. The taxpayer has 60 days to petition the informal conference board, and the auditor will explain that process at the point in which that's eligible. One new rule that I would like to draw your attention to is that effective in June of 2024, Section 215.115B of the Illinois Administrative Code was updated. For a taxpayer to qualify for ICB review, there now has to be 180 days remaining on the statute of limitations for assessment at the time the taxpayer submits the request. This change reinforces the importance of acting quickly after receiving a notice of proposed deficiency. If the 180-day requirement is not met, the taxpayer will need to pursue other available remedies, such as formal protest or fast-track resolution, if still eligible. At the time in which the informal conference board opportunity is able to be presented to the taxpayer, if there aren't 180 days remaining on statute, the auditor will work with the taxpayer to attempt to obtain a waiver of statute of limitations to extend that statute out to allow for those ICB rights. Taxpayers can waive fast-track resolution and ICB and disagree with the final audit results and still retain their formal protest rights. Once the audit is processed, the taxpayer will receive a notice of tax liability or a notice of deficiency. Taxpayers will then have 60 days from the date of those notices to request an administrative hearing, or they can petition directly to the Illinois Independent Tax Tribunal if they're eligible for the tribunal. Taxpayers also have the ability to bypass administrative hearings or the tribunal and go straight to circuit court. Of course, taxpayers can waive going to FTR or ICB and just agree to the audit liabilities. In that case, a final audit report will be issued, after which the taxpayer has 30 days to agree and pay the liability, after which an additional 5% penalty will be applied to any unagreed amount, and interest will continue to accrue. Taxpayers who are unable to pay the entire tax liability can pursue a payment agreement with IDOR once collection activity begins. Next slide, please. So now that I've covered the audit program itself, I am going to give you guys a little bit of an overview of some of the self-service tools and resources that we've made available in recent years. Next slide. So on the My Tax Illinois side, we've created a number of additional functions for taxpayers during the course of an audit. Those include responding to the federal state exchange unit notices, responding to audits, attaching documentation, electronically signing waivers, and there's some additional functionality as well that I'll cover. Next slide. So responding to federal state exchange unit notices. So just a little bit of quick background. So the federal state exchange unit here at the department performs examinations based on information that we receive from the Internal Revenue Service. That would include non-filers as well as underreportings of income that are identified through comparative matching between what's reported to the Department of Revenue here in the state, as well as what was filed with the IRS. The notices that are produced through Fed State Exchange are produced in a larger volume than traditional audits. And taxpayers who receive those notices do have the ability to respond to those electronically through MyTax Illinois. Within their MyTax Illinois account, under account options, they simply select respond to an examination. Next slide. Once they've selected that option, they'll be presented with a screen that shows unexpired notices that are available for them to respond to. On this screen, you'll see a list of the notices that are eligible for a response. You can click on the letter ID hyperlink. You'll see that those are in blue. That'll actually pull up a PDF of the notice if you wanted to review it. And then once you've determined what notice you want to respond to, you mark the appropriate select box and simply click here to respond. Next slide. So this is going to bring up a variety of options. There's 3 to 4 options available depending on the type of lead that was associated with the letter that you selected. Taxpayers can agree with the proposed tax and the EDA 131 examiner's report. They can opt to submit changes to the proposal from the examiner's report. They can completely disagree with the proposed tax, or they can select that they're a non-resident or a part-year resident and then provide support for that selection. Next slide. So the respond to FSEU notice, if you agree with the notice, you'll be presented with the option to review and agree to the liability. You can submit a payment or request a payment plan, and then you can submit the response. Next slide. If you request a change to the examination, you will be provided an opportunity to explain the changes you're requesting, including providing supporting attachments. You can submit a payment or request a payment plan, and then you can review and submit the response. Next slide. And if you disagree with the examination, you can provide the reasons for your disagreement, add attachments and other support, and then you're provided the option to review your entries, confirm, and then submit the response back to the Fed State Exchange unit. Next slide. And lastly, if you believe we have your residency incorrect, you can select the appropriate residency status for the tax year, whether you're a resident of another state, resident of another country, or if you're a non-U.S. citizen, or even if you're a part-year resident of the state of Illinois, you're provided that residency option. You'll be presented with, based on the selection of your residency, you'll be presented with a variety of options for types of support to prove that out. And then you'll be afforded the opportunity to review all your entries, as well as confirm and submit that response back to Fed State Exchange. Next slide. So for our traditional audits, there are also a number of options available to respond to the audit electronically through MyTax Illinois. It's not in a box on this screen, but if you log into your MyTax Illinois account, on the lower left there under More Account Options, you'll see the option for Respond to an Audit. So if you click that, that'll take you to the next screen. Next slide. Similar to what we saw for the Fed State Exchange unit notices, this will bring up a screen which shows letters which are available for response. In this case, that's the Illinois Pre-Audit Questionnaire, as well as an EDA 70 Audit Information Document Request. As with the Fed State Exchange unit notices, you have the option to click on that letter ID and actually view the letter that was sent to you if you wanted to review it or save a copy of it locally. Once you've determined which letter you want to respond to, you select the appropriate letter and then you click here to respond. Next slide. Taxpayers can then provide a written response as well as attached documents. In this case, we're looking at the response to information document request. You can see that some of the documents that we had sought through that request included a trial balance and working papers that were used to prepare their ST1 return, the sales tax return. some sales tax liability reports, as well as tax accrual account detail. Taxpayers can indicate whether a document is unavailable. They can attach documents as well to that request. Once the documents are attached and this process is complete, a work item is actually created internally for our auditor within our integrated tax system, GenTax, and then the auditor will have access to that documentation immediately and begin to start working on that audit response. One item of note, the maximum file size within MyTax Illinois is 50 megabytes. So we do have other options available, specifically our virtual audit room that allow for larger file transfers. Next slide. Taxpayers can also electronically sign statute of limitations waivers through MyTax Illinois. Under Respond to Audit, they simply select the option to submit a response to our statute of limitations waiver letter. They'll have to agree to the statute waiver language and then provide details on who is preparing the response. Once submitted, a signature response web request is actually processed into GenTax, and then the signed waiver creates a work item in our system for the supervisor and then subsequently the auditor to review. Next slide. And there's a number of additional functions that are available for responding to auditors. They can respond to audit questionnaires. They can apply for fast track resolution. They can waive the right to petition the informal conference board. They can request reasonable cause and provide support for that request. Taxpayers can sign returns as well as submit payments when responding to audit. So we've done a number of we've made a number of strides these past couple years to really push these additional functions and make it as easy as possible for taxpayers who are working through MyTax Illinois already to also work with us on the audit side using our functionality within MyTax Illinois. All right, next slide. So moving on to our virtual audit room, we have a SharePoint virtual audit room, which is a secure and confidential web-based document management system used by the Audit Bureau to electronically share documents with taxpayers during the course of an audit. Each auditor has its own SharePoint site, and each audit is set up by the auditor as a sub-site with unique permissions for their taxpayers and their representatives. Next slide. So the flow of the virtual audit room is intended to be incredibly simple. When an audit is assigned, the taxpayer is sent a document with the audit initiation letter and is directed to our website for information on the virtual audit room. The auditor will discuss the benefits of the VAR with the taxpayer, and they'll determine if they are willing to use the tool. If they are willing to use the VAR, the auditor will then obtain a valid email address from the taxpayer, which they'll use to establish the sub-site within their SharePoint directory specific to the audit being performed. They'll then grant security rights to the taxpayer using the email address provided. The auditor will then upload their document requests and other correspondence to the virtual audit room, and the taxpayer can begin responding by uploading their own documentation. Once the audit is complete, we'll actually pull down all of the data that was submitted through the VAR and save that internally within our system, and then that information will be removed out of the virtual audit room, so it's cleared out of the SharePoint site. Next slide. So the virtual audit room has provided a number of key benefits to the Audit Bureau in the state of Illinois since its implementation several years back. There's been a number of key time savings, so there's no need to wait for in-person meetings or mail any longer. Documents can simply be exchanged or accessed by either party in real time. That's really enhanced our efficiency in the course of audits. It's helped to really reduce our travel expenses. As an example of that, in fiscal year 18, prior to the implementation of the virtual audit room, monthly we were spending an average of over $150,000 on travel expenses for our Audit Bureau. In the first fiscal year after implementing the virtual audit room, those costs were cut by 43%, and since then have declined even further. With the virtual audit room, as well as what we're doing now through MyTax Illinois, we're only spending a few $1,000s on auditor travel at this point each month. So we've made great strides to save money, make things more efficient, and help to make us more productive in the course of our audits. Next slide. All right, so I do have some additional information that I was going to provide here. So I did not have a slide prepared for it. It was just recently signed into law. But we did, through the FY26 revenue package, have 2 amnesty programs that were created to be administered by the Department of Revenue. So I'm going to give a little bit of overview on those amnesty programs as well. Those have since been signed into law through Public Act 104-0006, which is available for review on the General Assembly's website. So the Tax Delinquency Amnesty Act was updated to establish a new amnesty period, providing an opportunity for taxpayers to pay outstanding eligible tax liabilities and to have eligible penalties and interest forgiven on taxes paid in full during the amnesty period. Eligible liabilities are taxes due from periods ending after June 30th, 2018 and prior to July 1, 2025. To participate in the amnesty program, full payments of eligible tax liabilities must be paid between October 1st, 2025 and November 17th, 2025. The law also established a new remote retailer amnesty program for remote retailers that owe state or local retailers occupation tax. This is a new tax amnesty program that's specific to remote retailers, and it's not taking effect until August 1st of 2026, and it will run from August of 2026 through the end of October 2026. This new amnesty program applies to transactions from January 1st, 2021 through June 30th of 2026. In terms of eligibility, retailers must have had economic nexus within Illinois during the eligibility period. They must be registered with the Illinois Department of Revenue, and the program applies to tangible personal property shipped into Illinois addresses. Some of the benefits of participation in the remote retailer amnesty program includes waiver of interest and penalties on eligible transactions, and this program is really unique. One thing that's special about the program is the ability for remote retailers to enter into a payment plan. That's special for this amnesty program. As long as the successful completion of the payment plan is performed, then the amnesty program will be successful and penalties and interest will be relieved. In terms of the remote retailer amnesty, participants have the option to use a simplified tax rate. That includes a 9% rate on goods normally taxed at the 6.25% state tax rate, as well as a 1.75% rate on qualifying food and other items typically taxed at 1%. Retailers won't pay more than those rates unless they collected and failed to remit higher taxes during this period. What this really helps to do for those remote retailers that had been out of compliance is bring them into compliance while also simplifying their process of coming into compliance, and that only statewide totals are going to be required using those simplified rates. There are no state location-specific sales data that's going to need to be reported. So using the simplified rates, they register for that one location using the new schedule that we're going to create, and that will allow them to report those past liabilities rather than have to go through the process of adding numerous sites that they made sales into the state through, as well as go back through their records and identify which sales went to which location. This program is going to be a limited time opportunity for those remote sellers to become compliant while reducing complexity and the financial burden of doing such. So look to our website in the coming weeks and months for more details on those programs, as well as other updates related to the spring legislative session.